Did you know that there's a way to tell if the asylum officer plans during your interview to deny you based on credibility concerns? I'm going to tell you all about it. I'm Brian Manning, if we're just now meeting, and I'm a political asylum lawyer. That means I help people all over the country secure their future in the United States through asylum. By the way, I just created a Facebook group called Asylum Seekers United. If you're interested in learning about the process or have questions, come over to that Facebook group, Asylum Seekers United. We'd love to have you. I'd love to answer your questions there. Okay, so at your asylum interview, you can tell if the asylum officer thinks that you're lying about something because they have to confront you about it. Okay, this is called a credibility confrontation. Now, asylum officers are taught that when someone says something at their interview that is inconsistent with something that they said earlier in the interview or with something that they said as part of their asylum application materials, then the officer has to confront them about it, basically call them out and say, hey, this doesn't make sense, okay? And they have to give the person a chance to explain and to see if the person can basically sort of make sense out of it or explain in a way that shows that they weren't actually lying. There's actually a good reason for this inconsistency, okay? So let me give you an example of an inconsistency. If someone says, let's say they're talking about how they were attacked on 3 different occasions, and they say, yeah, the first attack happened in 2017. And then a little bit later in the interview, the officer asks, when was that first attack again? And the person says, oh yeah, it was in 2018. Well, that's an inconsistency, okay? Because you said one thing earlier, 2017, and then later you said 2018. So the officer is going to confront you about that. What does that look like? Well, it actually has like a set structure that asylum officers are taught for how to do this. So they're gonna say something like, earlier you said X, or in this scenario, earlier you said that you were first attacked in 2017. And then you later told me, or now you're telling me that the first attack was in 2018. Can you please explain these conflicting statements? Or can you please explain this? So it actually has kind of a formula like that. Earlier you said this, now you're saying this, can you please explain? And when they do that, that means that they're confronting you to see if you have an explanation. Now, the good news is that there often is an explanation, okay? There often is a way for the applicant, that's you, to explain why it is that something they said didn't seem to match up, or why the officer maybe just misunderstood what the person is saying, okay? So don't freak out when this happens, when you go through a credibility confrontation. Rather, just try to think clearly about, okay, what can I do to explain myself, just to make the officer see what it is that I'm really talking about, to show that, this inconsistency, or what seems like an inconsistency, really isn't one. Now, if it is, if you just misspoke and you just said the wrong thing earlier and now you're saying something different just because you just made a small mistake, which we all do, you can just say that. You can say, oh, well, if I said that earlier, I guess I just misspoke. I'm sorry. And that's usually okay. Now, the issue is when this happens 3 or 4 times, when a person makes 3 or 4 inconsistent statements at their interview, that gives the officer the ability to say that you're not credible, okay? 3 or 4 inconsistencies in your case can allow the officer to go, oh, your testimony was not credible, and therefore we're denying your asylum application. So you do want to avoid that. You want to take pains to not make these inconsistent statements at your interview. And there's a lot of things that I do with my clients to prepare them for that, because in my experience as both an asylum officer with the government and now an asylum lawyer, in my experience, these happen a lot, and they're just truly innocent mistakes. Even when people are telling the truth, they still mess up and they still make these little errors, like changing a date or messing up someone's name or just saying something that doesn't quite make sense or doesn't quite line up with something they said earlier. And they're telling the truth, or they're trying to tell the truth, and it's an honest mistake. And this happens, right? Why does it happen? Well, I think it happens in asylum interviews so often because it's hard. It's a stressful, difficult environment. The officer doesn't normally just let you tell your story and express yourself and explain what happened and why you're afraid to go back to your country. Rather, they ask you question after question after question. They often interrupt you. They change topics frequently, and it's just hard. And because of that, because it's so unlike anything that most applicants have ever experienced before, that they feel stressed out, and that makes them make mistakes, these small mistakes that when you make 3 or 4 of them, they can damage your case and even get you denied. So there are things that you can do to prepare in terms of just knowing what you're getting into, knowing what kind of questions the officer is going to ask. And then also just really understanding and remembering the details of your case. And I work hard with my clients to do all those things so that when they go to the real interview, to the actual interview, after I do a mock or practice interview with them and we do other things to prepare, when they go to the real interview, they're much more comfortable. And when you're more comfortable, you're less likely to make those little mistakes, okay? And last thing about these credibility confrontations, sometimes when the officer does them, they'll do them right as soon as they realize that there's something that the applicant has said that's inconsistent with something they said earlier. But sometimes they'll wait and do them at the end. So it's often the case that at the end of the interview, like maybe right before they ask you a bunch of security related questions that they have to ask everyone, that they go boom, 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 and address like however many inconsistencies there were in your case, they address them all in a row, back to back to back. Earlier you said this, and then you said this. Can you please explain the difference, or why you told me two different things? And so it can feel very intimidating when that happens and they stack them all up and do like 2 or 4 in a row. You just feel like they're attacking you. The key is to try and stay as calm as possible. Try not to freak out. Know that it doesn't necessarily mean your case is going to get denied, okay? Even if you don't have the best explanation in the world, even if you just say, I guess I just misremembered. I guess I just misspoke about that date, but I'll be happy to tell you more about it, officer, if you have any specific questions about it. Something like that can sometimes be enough, depending on what the issue is, like what it is that was the subject was that you were talking about, and depending on the officer, because different officers treat this differently, even though they shouldn't. Some are more strict about this than others. So try not to freak out. Try to just calmly explain to the best of your ability why it is that you said different things, or try to express yourself in a clear way. And hopefully you'll be okay. So let me know if you have questions about this. Ask them down in the comments below, or better yet, come join us over at Asylum Seekers United on Facebook. That's a Facebook group where we're having great conversations about asylum, and I'm going to be doing some trainings that are just for that group about how to best prepare your asylum case and increase your chances for success. So again, I'm Brian Manning, and it's my honor to support you in your asylum journey. Thanks.